Yo YouTube! This is my video for Friday the 16th of May, and it is now 11:05, and I've got a little story to tell you about this morning's events. I'll try and make it as interesting as possible. I think it's interesting personally because I've experienced it firsthand, and whether I can relay that in an interesting manner is far from known at the moment. So let's go back in time, way back to 8:30 this morning, and I was probably asleep at that point. Now I was awake at that point, but I was very tired and I was not really in a mood to start working that early. So I finally got my eyes open and looked at my phone, and there was, oh yes, before, let's go back even further to yesterday afternoon. Let's make this an epic. At dialysis this afternoon, from about 2 o'clock for the next 3 hours, I was more or less constantly looking at jobs for today that I could do, and there was an absolute load of jobs from Nottingham, Northampton, Leicester, Corby, a sprinkling from Thetford, but weirdly nothing from Peterborough or anywhere near where I live. And it was like ridiculously weird. I thought that my phone must have broken, so what I did in the end, after about 2 hours, I put in a future journey of Peterborough to Peterborough this morning, just to see if that would catch any work. But it was so weird how, like, I was in the middle of a ring of a Bermuda ring of nothingness, and then up to an hour and a half from me was where all the action was. So I was putting bids on for stuff that was sort of going a long distance, which made sense for me. Because going to sort of Nottingham or Northampton, Wellingborough, even Thetford, can make sense if the job I'm doing is a long wheelbase van job and it's going quite a long distance. But I didn't win any of those jobs, and some of them are really good jobs. So there's a job going from King's Lynn to North Wales. There's a job going from somewhere like Northampton to Preston, I think, something like that. So really good. There's a job going to South, sort of Bristol area from Nottingham. So some really good jobs, but I didn't win anything. And I even kept on looking on my way home until about 6 o'clock. I put a bid on after 5 o'clock and didn't get that either. So this morning I was quite tired, and I thought there's got to be stuff from closer to where I live. So I had a look, and there was a few things. There was a job going from Sleaford to something like, I don't know, Northampton maybe. It wasn't that far, but it was not a bad job. There's a job going from King's Lynn, but nothing. There's a couple of jobs going. Well, there's a job going in Peterborough to Peterborough for like 11 o'clock. So I remember there was a Skegness to Peterborough. There's a Nottingham to Peterborough, all kind of going in the wrong direction. Lots of stuff from Biggleswade and Cambridge. So I thought I'm not going to go at this point that far from home. So I kept looking, and then eventually at 9:41 there's a job posted that I didn't see until 9:45 because I was scrolling up and down the phone. And it's a job going from P20, it's a Boston postcode, to Slough. And what intrigued me about it, the first thing intrigued me about it was the one that was the closest that had come up to me, apart from a Peterborough job that I'd bid on. But it was going quite far, but it did say pick up by 10:15. Well, sorry, pick up before 10:15, which was like, by the time I saw it, it was half an hour. And I checked how far away I was from the pickup, and it was my side of Boston. And I thought I'll probably get there in time. I was 25 minutes away. So if I'd left absolutely at that point, I'd have been there at by 15:15. So I could do it. But obviously I put the bid on and then I waited. And as I was waiting, I thought if he calls, I need to be ready to go straight away. And I had other bits on as well. So I was sort of making a breakfast, put my shoes on, and then he called. And my bid on this job, going from Swineshead to Slough, for 126 loaded miles for a medium wheelbase van job, I bid 150, which I thought was a really good price for me to do that job for. Usually I tend to go with £1 a mile for small or medium wheelbase van jobs, but if there's anything, that's the base price. And if there's anything unusual, like going to a quiet area, I've got a long way to drive, or in this case going to London on a Friday morning, then I did think I would put a bit more money on, and I was quite surprised to win the job. So I was in a rush to get there. The guy who told me about it said something to the effect of, I've got 2 pallets in my van, I need you to take a pallet, and we need to get down to Slough by, I think he said 1 o'clock, but I couldn't quite remember. And I was thinking, this is going to, because it was a timed delivery, because it was going to be delivered on the airline today. And so I got in my van, got straight over to where I was going, and I was thinking on the way, this seems really dodgy. This is, am I picking this up from someone else's van? And is it a pallet of stuff? Because I can't carry a pallet of stuff. So it's going to take time to do that. And I was checking my times to get down to Slough, and from where I was picking up, it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that was with no breaks and no sort of delays. So by the time I got there, which was I got there at 10 in the end, I was pulling up thinking, this is never going to work. I'm never going to get this done in time, and this is going to be really stressful. And does this person know what they're doing? And, you know, is it legitimate? What's happening here? And so I was quite concerned about it when I pulled up. And the other thing I had decided to myself is, I know that I'm not working next week, and so I've got dialysis tomorrow, so there's no way I can have this item, whatever it is, this pallet, on my van. There's a car to the left there, let me see it, very nicely parked in the ditch, or as we say here, the dike, which might sound rude to you, but doesn't sound rude to me. This place is full of dikes. There, that's my attempt to be funny, by the way, just in case you didn't realise it. And they are called dikes, I'm not making that up, that is true. But I realise there's a second meaning for that, which most of the country would snigger at. Right, where was I? Oh yeah, my other concern was I can't do work tomorrow or next week because I'm off next week. So this pallet or whatever it is needs to be off my van today. So if we get down to Slough and then we can't offload it, what's going to happen then? So that was all of my concerns going into this. I got there as soon as I could, and as I said, I got there. I arrived on site at 10, which was 25 minutes after I'd received the call, which was the earliest I could have got there. And the guy met me, and he sort of came to my van, and we had a quick chat. And my first sort of question was, is this a timed delivery still? And he said, no, not anymore. It's been changed. It's now going to be delivered tomorrow. It's going to cold storage today. And so we're going to go to Staines now instead of Slough, which is the same mileage, but it's just not necessarily got a timed issue, which put me at ease immediately. So there's no pressure in terms of rushing and having the idea that it wouldn't get taken up by a van. Now my next thought was, I want to find out a bit more about this person that I'm with and what are they like. So I used my usual level of charm. I didn't dial it up, I didn't dial it down. It was my usual sort of level 6 charm, offensive. And I had a word with him, and immediately I liked the guy. And I'll tell you why I liked him immediately. It wasn't his flowing beard. It was good, but it wasn't that. it was that he said that he chose my bid because I wasn't the cheapest, because, and this is paraphrasing a bit, but this is what he said, because he doesn't think going cheap is good for drivers, good for himself, because people earn the pricing everyone, which is exactly what we're all talking about at the moment. So he was singing from my hymn sheet, and everyone else's hymn sheet, and so he said that he had bids of 110, 120, my bid of 150 and 200, and everything in between, and for some reason he chose my bid. So I was very pleased about that, but what I was really pleased about was he was saying the thing that I'm really passionate about is that we shouldn't be going too cheap, and people are. And so I found a bit more about him. So he's been doing the job about the same amount of time that I have been, about 2 years. His CX number's a little bit newer than mine, but not a lot. It's I'm probably about 2 months ahead of him in terms of working on CX. He works for himself. He's an owner driver based in Derby, which is a different area to where I'm based. He's got a long wheelbase van, 3.6 metres long, and we have a lot in common. We talked about what we tend to think fair prices are for the various vans, and we pretty much agreed. I was a bit more expensive than he was. So for example, I said I would think a fair price for a long wheelbase van for me is 130 a mile, and he said 125, 120, 125 if you can get it. So we both agreed that you can't get that price at the moment. And yeah, and now the other thing is I found out why he wasn't taking the pallets. So he had 2 pallets on his van already, but the person we were collecting from, according to him, had not told him it's 3 pallets, or had not told him the weight. And the 3rd pallet would have made the load 1.6 tons, which obviously one long wheelbase van can't take that amount of weight. So all I'm doing is I'm taking 1 pallet because it's too heavy for him to take all the load himself. I saw in his van he's not co-loading today. I'll come back to that though. And so I'm really at ease. The only problem, the only minor issue, which wasn't really a problem at all, is that when I arrived, we had to wait for the forklift driver who was on site to load up a lorry that was already there. So although my colleague had been loaded up with his 2 pallets, they started loading the lorry in the interim before I arrived, which is fair enough. So I had to wait for about 20 minutes while they finished, and then I was probably off site about half an hour after I arrived, maybe 40 minutes. And so now I'm going down to Staines, and it's going to take me, I'm going to be there around about 1:30, but I've put my ETA as 2 o'clock, and I've earned from this job half of my gross daily pay, and that's not bad. I'm going to be in Slough, which is not necessarily going to be an easy place to get work from, but I should find something. Ideally, I think what I'm looking for is that Friday afternoon job to Norwich no one wants to do from Slough, but I'll play it by ear. I've got plenty of time, I think, to just work out, and I'm on the right side of London to sort of just head up the M25, M1 towards Luton or Milton Keynes if there's anything happening. Now, this is the thing that we don't agree on. I'm going to come back to now with the person that I'm working with today. So I like the guy, and I did sort of mention that what he does is not for me, and I could sense that we were beginning to stray into disagreement territory, and I thought, let's not bother doing that now. But basically, what I don't agree with the way he works is the following. He will co-load. He said you need to co-load nowadays to make a living. Now I don't necessarily disagree with that sentiment, because I do understand the temptation to co-load as a driver. It's just something that I tried. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And I'd much rather have peace of mind and a bit less money than be on edge all the time and stressed. It's just not worth it. Now, I will mitigate what I've just said in his defence, and this is what he said. Now, again, to be clear, I wouldn't do this, and I don't agree with it, but I can see why he has justified it in his own head. The example he gave me was, because he does a lot to Heathrow, if he's got a job going to Heathrow, he'll give that customer an extra hour's ETA, and then he'll look for another job going to Heathrow on the way down. I think that's what he said. And I said to him, do you tell the customers that you're doing that? And he said, no, he doesn't. But he says, and his justification is, he'll get there in the time that he's said to the customer, because he's given them an extra leeway in time. He wouldn't want to let the customer down in terms of giving them false information in terms of the time they're going to arrive. But I don't know if I can. I personally can't go that far. I get the. So what I understand is, everything in life is grey. It's not black and white. So if you're going to co-load without giving, if you're going to co-load without telling the customers you're doing it, then the way he described it, you're going to the same end point, is not as bad as going to two different points that might be half an hour or an hour away from each other, because there's no way you can legitimately deliver on time two deliveries going to, say, I don't know, one going to, say, Nottingham and one going to Derby. If you let's say collecting from Birmingham, going to Nottingham and Derby, there's no way I think you could do a co-load where you don't let someone down, because someone's going to expect either the Derby job to be done directly or the Nottingham job to be done directly. If you've told them, that's a different kettle of fish. But if you haven't told them, I think that's quite bad. But if you're going from Nottingham through Derby to Birmingham, and both of the places go to B6, let's say, or both of them go to the same, I don't know, the airport, that isn't as bad. I personally wouldn't do it, but that's not as bad, because you're going to end up delivering both deliveries at the same time to the same place. The only issue will be the first person you picked up will take you slightly longer than if you'd gone direct. No, so if that's what he's doing, I don't agree with it personally, but it's not the worst thing you can do in the world. I think it's just like the thin end of the wedge, isn't it? If you start doing that, you start then stretching other things. The thing that I think I find is the straw that breaks my camel's back, if that makes sense, is the idea of not telling the customer you're doing it. Because if he was telling me the truth and that it's going to the same place, Heathrow, then I don't think the customers would really care that much. But I know there's a risk if you ask, they might say no. So not asking means you reduce that risk to zero. So anyway, I don't know. We didn't agree on that. I could sense we were going to come to a disagreement. It was amicable still, but we sort of stopped talking about that after a while and carried on something else. I don't know, it's all very well, isn't it, for me sitting here on my own pontificating about what's right and wrong, about my principles, but we have to make a living, and there are good ways to do bad things. Not all bad things are the same. I didn't get I'll finish on this. I didn't get the sense that he was particularly dishonest or particularly untrustworthy. I think the opposite. I think he was very much hard-working, generally ethical, and trustworthy person. And I would trust him to do my deliveries. It's just that there's a line that I wouldn't go to that he would do. And who's to say if I'm right or wrong? It's wrong for me, but it's right for him. And if he was doing this video, he would be couching it in such a way that it made sense to the audience that what he was doing was right, I'm sure. So I'm not criticising him as a person, because the other thing is we are trying to make a living, and you know, there are different ways of making a living, and sometimes different ways of making a living, and we all have different ways which we judge our efficacy or our principles. And I think that's the only difference here. We have a slight difference in how we see morally the right thing to do, and I'm not going to criticise someone for that. If it's a slight difference, it's basically he's got so much more in common with me than that one small thing that we don't agree with. And I hope that I'm going to go on for a little bit more. Sorry. I think that's what's missing in some of the conversation we have in society, is that we forget how much we've got in common with each other. We focus on our differences. So I could come away from that encounter thinking I don't like him because of that one small area we don't agree on. But no, I come away from that thinking, no, I respect him, I like him, and I would definitely work with him again, because everything else was the same. So 9.5% of what we do is similar. It's because the 0.5 is different doesn't mean we can't get on and work together. And I think that's a good analogy for society and social media. Personally, if that makes sense. Right, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to get myself to Staines. It's 2 hours from now. Hello there, YouTube. It's now nearly 3 o'clock, and I arrived on site in Staines at about 10 to 2. No, say 1:45. I was offloaded and ready to sort of look for other jobs around about 2 o'clock. So I stayed in the yard, and I just had a look at other work. There was a great job going from Slough to Widnes, which I thought a little bit on and didn't get. I was quite close to it. There's another job going from for 10 minutes where I was, Ashford, going to Dudley. And there's another job I've been on going from, again, 15 minutes from where I was, to like Uxbridge, and it was going Crewe. And any of those jobs would have been great mileage, would have paid for my whole day. I put on bids that was something like 80p a mile. One was a long wheelbase van job, so I did something like 90p a mile, 95p a mile for that one. And then the small van run was sort of like 75p a mile that I did for a small job going to Dunmow from where I was, from Ashford to Dunmow. Anyway, in the end I got none of those jobs. There were loads of jobs going to London. There's loads of jobs from my home area. I had to just quickly delete them all before I could catch up. They were just coming in one after the other, even sometimes 2 at a time. But once I got through the whole list, once I'd had those 5 or 6 bids rejected, it was then an hour. I've been there for an hour, and I thought, let's move on now. So I'm doing a partly strategic move. I'm moving myself from where I am now in Staines, which is to the east of the M25. I'm going to drive to Slough, which is to the west of the M25, and then I'm going to head from there up towards Amersham, and then sort of avoiding the motorway network, just heading in between the towns that there may be work going from. I'm not expecting anything, to be fair. I'm expecting it to be quite tough, but I don't want to be stuck here and then stuck behind the Friday afternoon traffic trying to get out. So I'm going to start moving, which I'm doing now, and just sort of as I'm driving along look at jobs on the way. And I know what will happen. There'll be a job from where I've just come from going somewhere like Norwich, and I will have regret it, but I can't stay there on that basis. I did put bids on 3 really good jobs at a low price. I didn't get any of them, so let's make a move. Let's move myself out of this area towards where there might be. I'll end up, if I end up carrying on from Amersham, going up towards Milton Keynes, Northampton way. So that's not going to be a bad place to end up. Let's assume it takes an hour, so I should be around about the East Midlands in about 4 o'clock. So I might have a second job of the day there. I usually get a second job. It'd be unusual not to. Oh, and then one last thing, the guy that I was here so long, the guy caught me up who I was sharing the work with, and he said he was going to try and pay me today or tomorrow, which I thought was very nice of him. I've invoiced him through CX, and he said that he's going to try and get that paid, by tomorrow at the latest, which would be very, very useful. Okay, so I'll let you know how it goes. I'm really hot at the moment. In the van it says 19 degrees Celsius, and it's really warm, and I need to, when I finish this, I'll open the window and just get some fresh air in here. So I'll let you know. Cheers, bye bye. Hello YouTube. Just a quick update on what's happening next week. So it's now 3:15. I'm on my way to Slough and then on to Amersham. Hopefully I'll pick up something on the way. But I did say a few minutes ago that I'm off next week, and the reason for that is specifically for one reason, and that is on Monday, and I think then Wednesday and Thursday, me and my partner will be receiving training as to how to use the home dialysis kit. And the idea, in my mind at least, is that by the end of Thursday I can then be competent enough to use the PD, peritoneal dialysis, at home that night. And all of the equipment for the first batch is coming on Monday, the 19th of May, which just so happens to be my birthday. I'm turning 54 years old, and it's going to be a pallet, and the lady that booked it with me said that I'm not allowed to help the driver to unload. And I did check with her, because of my background in this, I did say to her, will the driver be working for you, or sort of just doing the logistics side of things? And so she did confirm that for all my deliveries, this first one and all the ones I'm going to get, the driver is going to be a member of their company. And so they know what they're doing, they know to expect to move the equipment anywhere in the house. I explained that we've only got some storage upstairs, that's all we can use, and so she made some notes. She asked about my pets and asked us to keep those in that way, which I think is reasonable. I've had lots of issues in the past with dogs. In my last job it was horrible, but in this job not at all. And so so it's all booked for Monday. We get a text with the 4-hour window, and then we get a delivery every 2 weeks depending on what we need. Now I understand that the regular deliveries every 2 weeks will be by the drivers that work for the company, but I also know that sometimes they're not those drivers, and I'm going to be very interested to know how often I get a courier delivering this stuff. She did say that in an emergency situation they would get a courier to deliver, but usually it would be their own drivers. So I got the impression from that their own drivers know exactly what they're doing. They know that they were expected to move these boxes upstairs or in garages or wherever, and it's probably not something that they would be too fussed about. I also know from personal experience that I've done one of these deliveries, and it was not that well communicated to me, that it was emergency, or that the people I was delivering to thought I was going to be there in the morning. I didn't get the job until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so they were really disappointed because they felt let down that it was the company or somebody else that had let them down. And I think they thought I might have worked for the company. And also I know what it's like to carry these boxes, something I'll hopefully never do again, but I'm glad I had the experience at least to remember. It's one of those experiences I've had in this job that I will never forget, and it reminds me not to do too much physically. Right, so yeah, that's my next week planned. I'm having the whole week off, and we're going to get this PD dialysis, or PD sorted out, and then that would mean hopefully that over the next couple of weeks there'll be a transitional period where we sort of keep doing PD at home, we keep doing HD hemodialysis in the clinic, and then at some point I'll be allowed, once I've proved that I know what I'm doing, to just do the home dialysis. So it's getting tantalisingly close now. And I'm guessing from what she said that the deliveries every 2 weeks will be on the same day, and there'll be a 4-hour window on that day. So I'll have to probably every so often be at home if my partner can't be at home because she's working. So I may not be able to work. I won't be able to work 5 days a week every week. I don't think go back because of my back to a full-time same-day courier. But I am looking forward to doing up to 5 days work, maybe the odd tramping out, and maybe also slightly shorter days sometimes, and not worrying about having to maximise every minute of every day that I'm at work, because I've got more time available. In terms of my catheter tube, it's healing well. I started off with 3 dressings. The first dressing came off really quickly and it was just healing quite nicely. Second dressing came off last week, which was the bigger scar, and the last one, which is over my actual catheter hole and catheter tube, is still in place, and I think will always be in place. It has to be there all the time. So yeah, that's me. I'm not going to let him out. He's scattered behind me. So that's me, and I'm now going to go back to the day job, which is trying to find any job heading anywhere near where I live, or to be fair, anywhere heading north from here. I'm just going just double check, I'm just going through or around the outside of Slough at the moment. I'm just sort of heading, I'm heading northwards now towards Beaconsfield. I'll cross the M40, go up to Amersham, and then I should probably head towards Aylesbury, Leighton Buzzard, and what's next after that? Bedford. Anyway, as always, I'll let you know. I hope you're alright as well. Oh, and also, quickly while I'm here, I managed to catch up with my comments now, which was bugging me. I really wanted to do that. I've got about 6 weeks behind, which is really ridiculous. When I had my break from YouTube, part of that was having a break from looking at the comments. But they're all really positive. They're all really good things to see. There's one worded comment which I wrote back and said, I can't tell if it's sarcastic or not, but I assumed maybe it wasn't, maybe it was. But yeah, just so you know, my natural go-to response to any comment is, that's sarcastic. So if there's any room for doubt, I'll always assume you're being sarcastic. But I'm trying to get out of that bad habit. It's not a good way of thinking about stuff. And the more I get positivity from my community, the more I sort of think, oh no, it's not, is it? It's genuine, supportive comments. Stop being so cynical and defensive. But I've had a whole lifetime of being cynical and defensive and self-deprecating. It's quite hard to just pop out that and assume someone's being genuinely nice to you. Right, let's march on. Hello YouTube, Eeyore here. I'm going to moan about something now. Not really, I'm quite happy at the moment. So I have amazingly got myself a second decent job. Not just a job, a decent job. I did learn from my previous experiences I went quite low, but I'll let you know what it's about and you might agree that I did the right thing. So I came across from Beaconsfield services, across the M40, and parked up in a lay-by just either side of the M40. Well, that'd be a good place. There's a job going from High Wycombe to Coventry, which I bid on and didn't get. There were several jobs going from Slough, but there's 2 jobs going from Slough going somewhere I could have bid on. But then a job came up which I thought, you just feel sometimes, oh, that's my job. And this is one of those situations. Now on my way to Uxbridge, which is only 15 minutes from where I was. And that job is picking up a car job, although I will caveat that slightly in a moment. And it's going to Grimsby. And I thought, who else is going to want to do that job at this time of day? Not many people will want to do that. and Grimsby's about an hour and 3/4, 2 hours from probably an hour and 3/4 from my house. So it was 191 loaded miles. I'm 15 minutes away, so I've got a good chance of winning the job. So I thought, well, what do I really want to earn today? And I went to my go-to amount, which is £300. So I worked out that I needed to get another job for 150, 150. So I put the bid on, 150, 20 minutes away, and then I looked again at what that was per mile, and it was 76p per mile loaded. So I thought, that's fair enough, that should win me the job, going to an unpopular area late on a Friday, and it's a fair price. And then I noticed who it was with. And it's with a shipper that I've done 4 or 5 jobs for in the last 2 years. And the first 3 jobs, they always paid me late. And the last job, which was I talked about in my video, I did say to them, how can I not get this paid late? And they did pay me on time. And also, they're a shipper that tends to do car jobs, the things that I think are really small van jobs. Now that I'm expecting that, it shouldn't be a problem. It will always fit in my van, it's not a problem with that. But now that I'm expecting it to be a larger item, then I shouldn't be disappointed. It might even be a proper car job, who knows. And anyway, so I had a brief chat with the lady that gave me the job, and she had remembered my previous conversation with her, and I told her, by the way, I did get paid on time last time, so now I'm very pleased with your company. So that was a little bit of, as they might say around here, bants, and it made a good sort of bit of conversation. So I'm on my way to Uxbridge, 12 minutes away at the moment. It was only about 8 miles from where I was when I stopped, so I must have moved something like 15 miles from my first drop off. So dead miles wise today, I'm not doing too badly at all. The worst bit will be the Grimsby home, but by that point I will have made my £300, and so I should make pretty close to 250 net, maybe more like 240 net of fuel, but even so, that's amazing. I think it's amazing, particularly considering how it could have gone today. So I think I've had just shy of 250 days this week. Monday was a bit of a write-off, I remember that being really bad, but I think this has been 2 good days. So really, I almost feel like I've cracked this CX malarkey. It's only my self-doubt and which stops me from saying that, although to be fair, I did actually do a video about 2 months ago where I said how good I was at working on CX, and then immediately after that I had loads of bad days, and I thought, I can't publish that video now, but I'm going to put it out there. I think I'm quite good at this CX thing at the moment, so we'll see how it goes when I'm going full time, but there's a lot of potential there, a lot of hope. So I'm really pleased at how today's panned out, and I'll let you know when I return back from home from Grimsby about my stats. I'm expecting it to be still light, and I don't know what time I'm going to be home, but I'll work that out on the way up there. So, no Eeyores in this van, I'm afraid. Cheers! Hello there, YouTube. Isn't it dark? It's now 9:30. I arrived at Grimsby at 9 o'clock and delivered the parcel. And before I get into my stats, I was delivering to the docks, and I don't recall ever being to Grimsby before. I've been close to Grimsby, and maybe through it travelling somewhere else, as in going back home. But I don't remember ever being there, and I found myself with an overwhelming question as I was driving through the docks, and it was, I'll give you a flavour of the question. So I was driving through, and there was a massive area of the docks with obviously lots of industrial type buildings, lots of space, and quite a few gaps where things have been demolished. And I was wondering, is this a place which is economically deteriorating or recovering? Or it could, I suppose, be neither. And I've got a sense that there was a lot of money. Once upon a time, there's a lot of money in Grimsby, and the fact that it's located where it is quite. It's a very strategically placed town because it's got a port, and so there must be a lot of potential wealth generation opportunities, but maybe they're no longer there. So I was really intrigued. So when I delivered, I did speak to the guy and I asked him, is this the main industrial area, and is it sort of growing or decreasing? And his view was there's another sort of industrial area with lots of factories. I think it was that Eco Park, it might have been called, and he did say that he felt that it was neither increasing or decreasing, it was sort of stable. So if you know Grimsby well, I'm intrigued to know, what is the economic outlook for Grimsby at the moment, and what is it like for younger people to find employment? Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is there deprivation? Is there an optimistic attitude? I found it really hard to know for sure. I only literally drove to the docks and drove out again, but I felt like, I hope it's increasing. I hope it's sort of developing its own niche, and it's growing, and it's got lots of opportunities. Because it seemed like people who lived there deserved a bit of a break. But I got no idea if I'm parking up the wrong tree or not. So if you happen to know Grimsby well, if you live there or grown up there, let me know what you think about the economic future of Grimsby, and whether it's feeling optimistic as a town or whether it's not. It's one of those places that I only ever hear about when I was a kid on the football pool scores. There's loads of those places that you know very well from that but you don't actually ever go and see. So yeah, that's my. If you know about it, give me some comments and let me know what you think. So I'm on my way home now. I will be home at about 11:15. I spent about 10 minutes chatting to the guy when I was there, and I did have to pick up fuel up. I had to fuel up on the way up, which delayed me for another 15 minutes. So in the end, rather than it being 8:30, it was more like, it was 9 o'clock when I arrived. So here are my stats for today, and I shall start off with my new average fuel price, because I've filled up with fuel twice this week, and that is 13.64 pence per mile. Today I've driven a total of 431 miles, 431. I will have worked for 12 3/4 hours by the time I get home. I've earned a gross earnings today of £300 from 2 CX jobs, and in terms of fuel costs, I've spent £58.79. So I'll round that up to £59, which means that my net earnings today, after taking into account fuel, are £241, 241. Because it's Friday today, I have got my weekly summary stats. And before I talk about these, I'm going to perhaps just remind people who are perhaps new to my channel some reasonably salient points. First of all, I think it's really important that I let you know the actual costs and potential income from doing this job, particularly in the current climate. And I do that, and I've done that for a couple of years now, because I think it's something I would have wanted to have known before I started, and I think it's of interest and it's relevant to this job. I'm just one person though, so you will do the job maybe differently. So I'm just showing what is possible based on where I live, which is near Peterborough in the East Anglia. I have a long wheelbase van, and at the moment I can only work part-time because of my health. So you will have different geographic locations, different vans, and different abilities to work more hours or more days. And the next point I want to say is, when I look at my finances, I always, when I say at the end of this, I've made X amount net this week, I always have in the back of my head that the first £315 of that, 315, is to cover my business costs. And I've covered that in a video which I've pinned to the top of my channel about my business costs and how I came to the figure of £315 a week. And that is a pretty accurate representation of what it costs me to run my van. And if you times it by 52, that's over the course of a year. And I am VAT registered, so those costs are exclusive of VAT. So if you're not VAT registered, then you may have to pay a bit more. Now, bear in mind all of that, and I don't want to say that at every video, but I might need to start doing that, or at least shorten it in some way, because people come to my videos without thinking that and think I've missed out some major expenses, which I clearly haven't done, but if you haven't followed me for a long time, you wouldn't know that. So here we go, this week's stats based on 3 days at work as usual, although next week it won't be 3 days. I've worked a total of 37 hours. I've driven a total this week of 1,051 miles, 1051. I've earned from my gross income £745, 745. I've spent £141 on fuel, 141, which means that this week I have earned £604 net of fuel, and that equates to £201 on average net earnings per day that I've worked. So I'm pleased with that. And the last figure that I'd like to give you is I've earned, for every mile that I've driven, I've earned 57.44 pence. Okay, I think that's all I need to say today. I was going to talk about something else, which I'll probably leave for a separate video, because I think it needs a bit of practice saying it. But I've said enough today, and I hope that you are well. So thank you for listening to my video. I hope that you are all being successful, no matter how you choose to define that word for yourselves. I'm next back on the road, probably a week on Monday, but I will be releasing videos next week. It'll be the 26th of May when I'm back on the road. I'm trying to think if there's anything happening that day. No, that should be fine. Okay, see you then. Farewell, friends.